Hello, everyone. Welcome to Navvai Shift, the podcast powered by Navvai. My name is Josh. I am one of the three co-founders of Navvai. I'm also here with Darnell, and we are also joined by Madeleine, who is the co-founder of Otto. So we're appreciative of having you on board. Could you give the audience just an introduction to yourself and what you do?
Yeah, super excited to be here. Thank you both for having me. So my name is Madeleine. I'm the CPO and co-founder of Otto. I spent the majority of my career at Fidelity, so a large incumbent building digital products, and saw how difficult it was for these large, very prestigious, very well-resourced firms to be able to utilize new technology and to fundamentally shift the client experience. During that time, I started an investment network, mainly for my female friends and broader network, because I was the only one who had a financial qualification and was able to help. 10 years later, my friends are still coming to me for help. I've been being confronted by the advice gap in all that time, and there still hasn't been a fundamental shift in how people can access financial help, whether that's advice, whether that's guidance. My initial hypothesis was, how can you create a more distinctive or client-centric direct-to-consumer kind of experience? But actually, the fundamental issue is the underlying technology that wealth managers and advisors are using. It's 30 years old, it's archaic, it's siloed, it's disjointed, and it's not fit for this next generation of both wealth users and also financial advisors and wealth managers. To help put to perspective, 1 in 5 advisors are looking to retire. The average age of a financial advisor is around 60. The average age of a wealth client is 65 plus, right? So we're going through this huge once-in-a-generation wealth transfer. Interestingly, that wealth transfer is happening both in terms of age, so going from the kind of 60, 70-year-old plus down to the next generation, but also in terms of gender. So soon 6% of the UK's wealth will be controlled by women for the first time ever. And this creates huge fundamental shifts. If majority of the wealth is controlled by women, yet only 50% of financial advisors are women, 6% of females want to have a financial advisor as a female financial advisor as their advisor, you've got a mess, right? You've got a disjoint. And I believe the only way that can be solved is better technology. And that's exactly why I'm building Otto.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely amazing. I can definitely sense the passion that you have about artificial intelligence, and I'm really interested for our listeners to, make note on what is here to come, and that's actually here to stay. You probably could agree. AI is not going anywhere. It's here to stay. It's definitely thing that a lot of people need to learn and get a good grip of.
Absolutely. I always say, look at other industries that are similar to wealth. Legal and medical are a perfect example where you have an expert and you have a client. In those industries, AI is so much more adopted in the core incumbents. For example, Harvey AI, great example, raised 65 million plus, being used by all the Magic Circle law firms. There's a lot of medtech ones. Nablo, great example, being used clinicians. NHS is trialing with AI. There is so much that's happening, yet wealth hasn't picked it up. And the fact that it's highly regulated, the fact that you can't mess up, is not an excuse. It's a reason why you should be using it.
Yeah, no, 100%. So
that is the main reason why wealth managers are kind of still stuck in legacy system, is because essentially they're not willing to go past the regulatory barrier, they're a bit skeptical of it.
I think wealth managers, they're not technology buyers. Their vocation is to understand, the changes in financial regulation, tax, markets, right? That is their perspective. And they've been working with incumbent software that's doing an okay job now for a long time. To radically change your software to use new technology is really scary. The way that legal and medical have done it is by raising huge amounts of money and coming in at the top. If you look at Harvey, the founder, one was a lawyer and one was a data scientist, and straight away they got backing from OpenAI, right? So they went massive, and they come from the US, so it's just a bigger market. So there's been some small things, which is why the adoption has been a bit slower. But now that's absolutely fundamentally changing this, and wealth managers doing really interesting things already.
Mhm.
I think the fact that there's large PE-backed consolidators, right, in the UK, and the PE houses. What's interesting is they absolutely adopting AI is a problem for today. It is a problem for right now,
Mhm.
and they're super strong in that. And the benefit is they see it in other industries that they have exposure to. So that I think it's becoming like less of a problem now.
Nice, nice. So I wanted to touch on a little bit about Otto Finance. As we're aware, you guys are the forefront of AI-powered financial services. From your perspective, what's the biggest operational inefficiency that's still holding back from a lot of financial advisors today?
Yes. Back office tasks. So 70% of advisors' time is spent doing manual back office admin. If you even look within the same within a CRM, quite often advisors are copying and pasting data within that CRM, or they use a CRM, they use a cash flow planning tool, they use a risk tool. These are not connected, and then they have their platforms as well. So there's just data silos everywhere. There's a lot of because it's so heavily regulated, a lot of the work is around pleasing the regulator as opposed to, okay, how can we truly ensure we're delivering value to our client? How can we truly ensure the client understands what we're doing? Or what are other things that we can do to help this client? Like, oh, this client has children. Are we helping the children? How can we do that? They don't have the capacity to do that because right now they're just solely focused on meeting the regulatory requirements. And even some of those, they literally do not have the ability to meet some of them because the technology is not there in place. For example, vulnerable clients. Advisors have to be able to highlight if their clients are vulnerable. Vulnerable meaning they've had a change in circumstance and therefore they require a bit more visibility, attention. For example, if somebody is recently widowed, they're classed as vulnerable or potentially vulnerable, just to check that their circumstances and they're in control and they understand everything. There's no way with Otto, with AI agentic systems, you can take the transcription data, you can use AI to understand it, you can use AI to understand if there's been a change in circumstance or something that would potentially class somebody as vulnerable. You can highlight that to the advisor, they can agree, they can disagree, and then there'll be separate course of actions that can be automatically put in place if they were to agree that client is vulnerable. And that could be even simple, like send a follow-up email in 2 months to check in. I mean, these things, none of this is automated, right? Like, and it should be. And the thing is, automation and utilizing this data will provide a much better experience for the end client, because right now advisors manage 150 clients on Excel with conditional formatting, a shared Excel, and then their tasks on a different sheet. It's clunky. I mean, how can you get like rich analysis and really keep track of people if that's how you're having to manage it?
Wow. In terms of clients, right? How have clients' expectations evolved with the rise, of AI-driven financial services?
I don't think their expectations yet have changed in financial services. I think their expectations in terms of how they interact with the people that they pay to help them more broadly have changed, right?
Yeah.
So if you're used to, banking is a great example. Banking has had so much investment that even the incumbent banks have good online banking experiences. And if you use a Revolut or a challenger bank, right? It's pretty slick. Like the onboarding, the security, the help, it's all instant. It's really good. I always think, imagine if you had £300 from Revolut from your last holiday that you just kind of have left there, and then you have 300k of your wealth manager. By the way, your wealth manager wouldn't even be able to serve you profitably with 300k. The customer experience you're going to get with Revolut is like, 100x better in terms of immediacy, personalization, benefits, insight than your wealth manager, who might have a client portal where you could log on and you might be able to see your portfolio value, you might be able to see your return, you might be able to see your holdings, and that's it. It doesn't make sense.
That makes sense. So would you say that's what Otto is trying to transform into? So you said that 70% of what financial advisors do is admin. Are you trying to essentially get that 70% back down to like 20%? So then there's now 80% that
No. Advisors should spend their entire day talking to clients. Like their job is to be the face, right? Like they need to build relationships, build trust, understand the clients, talk them. People go through massive life changes, right, with their wealth manager. If you have a great wealth manager, it can see you through like the entire circle of life, right? And that people always want that. It's so important. My vision is that in 3 years' time and 5 years' time, an advisor is on a call with a client and the client says, okay, like I'm going through a bit of the situation, like I can take less risk now. Maybe they're changing jobs, maybe they had a divorce, whatever it might be. And then Otto will be able to say to the advisor, do you want to rebalance this client's portfolio from risk 5 to risk 3? And the advisor will say yes, and that will happen. If you said that to an advisor right now, they won't believe you. Like that is how manually intensive it is, and that's not adding value. Changing their what they're invested in into a different risk category isn't adding value. It's a hygiene factor. Now, if I then say, oh, also on the call, the client mentioned they have a child and they're worried about the child's like financial habits and saving for college, whatever it might be. Now, if you have like a true kind of operating system for wealth, Otto will be able to say, I can see there's a potential for an additional client on a lower cost, more proposition that maybe you just need guidance. Maybe it's like a Robo Plus kind of service. Should I open an account, send an activation email to the child and do the necessary regulatory obligations and set up like a family unit through Otto? Yes, that's going to serve people better. Right now, it's hard even to map families through CRMs, let alone to be able to serve them and their different needs.
So Otto can basically serve them in real time as well, from what I understand.
Yeah, so the real time thing is really interesting. So we've trialed it. We're giving real time insights to advisors on a call. It can be confusing, right? Because you're like, whoa, what's going on? What I've learned is that you got to do one thing extremely well, extremely simply, nail it. Everybody's happy. And then you can move on to the next incremental thing. So that's the kind of how we approach that.
Nice. You was talking about advisors and the relationships that they have with, of course, taking on new clients. Do you feel like that it's super important to keep that touch there without losing? Do you think it's important to keep that human element when advisors are speaking to new potential clients instead of
I think
AI?
The human element is critical, and look at the robo advisors. So many have failed. I think Wealthsimple tried 3 times in the UK, 2-3 times. Robinhood the same. It's very, very difficult to Nutmeg had to be acquired, right? Like it's very, very difficult to build a sustainable direct consumer, non-human PFM, and the CAC is super high. People churn, and that's because. And this is what this industry doesn't understand, because everybody in the room that we always talk to cares about investing, likes investing, is inherently interested in investing. Most people aren't. Most people find it boring. They find it scary. They find it something that they have to do that they don't really get how to do, and like delay. And they don't even know what is a trusted source to go to upskill. It's also societally in England, right? Money isn't spoken about. And it's not you don't talk about wealth. You don't talk about wealth generation. It's within broader societal circles that it's not really like part of our culture. We're not like the US, where it's a very growth orientated hustle mindset. That's not, as a nation, what we're like. So it's super important to have that human element. Now, does that mean that for everybody the human element is the same? No. Do I think you could use avatars to help onboard people? Yeah, maybe. I mean, you can definitely try. What we found with we were trialing with this, and some client engagement is even higher when you have an avatar, because you say it's an avatar and people are just fascinated that it's not a real person. Obviously, that will fade over time, but there's definitely options.
Yeah. In terms of advisors, just again, do you see advisors becoming more receptive to automation, or do you think there's still a little bit of a resistance that's there?
I think you've got to look into the future. 1 in 5 advisors are looking to retire. It's incredibly difficult for wealth managers to be able to recruit financial advisors. Lots of them have advisor academies. They're literally training people up to do it. Now, how do you make this job super attractive? You supercharge them technology so they can double, triple, quadruple, 10x their client book, meaning they can 10x their income, their revenue. At the same time as 10x in their client book, you decrease the cost to serve, which means 1, again, the profit margin is much higher, and 2, nobody wants to spend their time data inputting, right? You want to spend your time with people, helping people, growing your business, working out like how you want to take your business, what's your ideal client type, finding connections between your client, becoming that central hub of wealth, looking at alternatives, looking at like how you can broaden your investment offering or your kind of broader proposition, spending time thinking about like how do I want to communicate with my clients. Like that's what you want to be doing, not copy pasting 6 things from one system to another.
Yeah, the boring manual tasks is.
I know what's the boring manual tasks.
I've seen a lot of it recently. We was actually spoke with someone today who, again, that's something that they want to remove from their business because they just find it's just boring. It can literally be replaced. Someone can actually do that repetitive
task. But I think
that's
exactly what you said. Want to remove. The cool thing is now they have to. We have something has shifted the last 18 months where it goes from being a want to a necessity. If you do not automate part of your business, the more manual tasks, you will not have the last 10 years of growth that you've had for the next 10 years. Like that now is kind of set in stone, and you can see advisors are voting by how they the reception that we had at advisorsoftware.com FTRC event. People really understand that. I feel for advisors because they're not technology buyers, nor should they be, right? Like they should spend their time, like I said earlier, like understanding the markets and financial regulation and structure, but they're having to skill up to understand how to be a technology buyer. And part of what I do is almost like acting as a friendly fire consultant, being like, okay, this is what I think, this is the questions that you need to ask. This is what you got to think about. Like, it's very different than before. But the classic, like nobody got fired for hiring IBM, that's what we have to break as an industry.
How does Otto ensure that automation doesn't diminish any of the key client needs?
I mean, automation enhances the advisor's ability to get the key client needs. What clients need is to understand the service that they're paying for. Like that's like the fundamental part of what the regulation requires. And right now, advisors don't necessarily have ability to provide that. So I think it's also like if you've meetings are a great example of such an underutilized asset. Right now, like if you can intelligently through AI understand a meeting, can craft a richer profile on that client, and then can create actions based off that profile of that client, you're going to give that client a way, way better experience. For example, let's say the client is tagged as vulnerable because they're going through a divorce, maybe. That will enable the advisor to make sure the client understands the financial topics that are relevant for them in that particular life situation that they're going through, to check in at tax year end to make sure they ask particular questions or give the client flags around particular things that might occur because of that circumstance. Right now, all of that is just kind of like dependent on the advisor remembering, and it's impossible. If you manage 150 people, it's a lot of people. It's a lot of things to remember.
So I see that you're kind of an advocate for this automations. So would you say there's any limitations?
I mean, what we have to do with the industry is to go on a journey. We need to start with the low-hanging fruit, the fruit that's a bit less scary, not like automating advice itself, focusing on client servicing, getting that in place, building up all of those data integrations, taking advisors on a journey, helping them to understand actually what AI is and what it's not, and what to be scared of and what not to be scared of. I mean, for example, hallucinations, right? Like that depends what kind of model you use. If you're using a model that's ring-fenced to your own client data, it mitigates the hallucination risk because everything is sourced back to like a raw data point, for example, a meeting transcription, a point in the meeting transcription. But everybody needs to be taken on this journey. I think what needs to happen is the fintechs like Otto need to be thought leaders and really kind of like carrying that to show the art of the possible, helping to educate people.
Nice. But Maddie, correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys have a white labeled client pool, was that right?
Yeah, so we originally were a financial coaching and guidance platform for employees, so a B2B2C model, because we wanted to get a product in the market that sat between a financial expert, so a financial coach, and an end client, because that clear to us was that the client experience of financial help, let's say in general, needed to evolve. That went really well. We worked with a lot of tech scale ups. We really understood kind of the market, but it became clear to us that actually like the bigger play was helping the advisors and wealth managers. But the beauty is that platform, that client portal, we still use and give. We actually give it for free. It's part like a perk, right? If you're using the advisor platform to our clients, because a bit like my Revolut analogy earlier, the state of client portals is, I don't believe, is fit for purpose for the next generation of wealth users. And if we are saying our big mission at Otto is to close the advice gap and to help bring a new client experience, then we need to put our money where our mouth is and also be able to provide a client portal to support that.
Amazing. Nice. We know AI, how great it can be, but what would you say has been, the biggest challenge in making AI personalized and so seamless?
I think with any startup in particular, you need to do one thing extremely well.
Yeah.
And that's what we're learning. So like, I could run, we're running 1,000 miles an hour, but I could run 1,000 miles an hour in terms of scope of the features that we ship, right? We could accelerate everything. But this has to be a high quality product, 100% accuracy, something that you can just trust explicitly. And so that's what we're developing. Each of like the agents effectively that we release is extremely high quality at that one single thing that it does. And then you go from there. You can like build out from there.
Yeah. I think our listeners would be really interested to know a little bit just surrounding compliance and regulatory challenges. So we know that also ensures that FCA consumer duty is compliant with automations and compliance checks. So how critical is it in today's regulatory
compliance is extremely challenging for wealth managers. It's a lot of operational costs to be compliant, and at some point with the existing systems it's impossible in some sense. That's why I was really excited to be working with the FCA, their AI Spotlight lab. It's great that they have such a visionary view of this technology, and they absolutely know it can fundamentally help the industry. And the reception we got with them has been amazing. I mean, imagine a world, right, where the FCA, all of the FCA's regulations basically on an API. And then, for example, for reporting, we can create a suitability report and we can cross-reference it through an API to the FCA's handbook. And then there's a small update based on, I don't know, disclosure of fees or something, a different way that you should do it. Yeah. And also you can understand that through the API. And then 1 minute later, it's updated.
That's impressive. We need to...
That's the vision. But again, sometimes it's like you have to help people get there as well, in terms of, that's why I love the phrase human in the loop. How can you make advisors understand where this is coming from, understand how to check this work in a new way?
Yeah.
I think the way that we also think about it, like most SaaS products up until now, or like B2B software up until now, has been built to have a layer of humans operating. And that has given the kind of credentials that it's safe, right? But this is an entirely different approach where like you're not building this. We don't building Otto to have a layer of humans checking the work. We're building Otto to be able to do the work, enabling the human to confirm or to change like a fundamental like part of like within the journey, if there's like a step change, for example, like, no, Otto got it wrong, that person wasn't vulnerable because of X, Y, Z or whatever. But it's not going to be doing the actual kind of like moving data from one point to the other point.
I'm with you. And in terms of like the biggest compliant pain points you guys deal with, what are the biggest pain points that you help clients deal with at Otto?
I think it's consumer duty, to be honest. Even just like the annual client review, right? Like proving the helping advisors to demonstrate the value that they bring clients is really important. And I think part of the value, having a great customer experience, is part of the value. Like personalized emails from your advisor, that can bring the value to a client. But we work with our clients really closely. We work in a lot of design partnerships, so we really understand the advisor's needs. And like I always say, like, imagine you had a magic wand. What do you want to happen? And that's what we're working for.
Amazing. And do you see AI playing a bigger role in governance and risk management?
Yeah, 100%. But I mean, automation, right, will have parts that are AI and parts that aren't. It doesn't really matter. Like for an advisor, like who cares? You just want it to be a really good system. Like that's my problem. My problem is to create a simple experience for the advisor, and also to communicate to the advisor what they need to know around data and security and what data. Like we obviously don't use client data to train models, but like educating advisors around that. But they don't need to know what's a sub-agent and where that's been, is unnecessary to them as a distraction.
Amazing. So you've spoken about Otto as a co-pilot rather than a replacement for advisors. What is next in line for?
What is next?
What is next for AI?
Yeah, I mean,
Otto.
We have a huge vision of what we want to do. We want to build like the future of wealth, the operating system of wealth management that encompasses from client servicing all the way down to like holding an AUM eventually. That is a huge play. It's a long-term play. We're here to build a multi-decade company that will really like make a step change in how we can service wealth clients. I really want to be able to decrease the cost of giving advice. I want to make it a more attractive industry for advisors to join. And I think as a kind of a side thing, both of those will impact the amount of female clients that you see in wealth, the amount of female advisors that you see in wealth. And to me, those things that's absolutely critical, right? Especially with the gender wealth transfer that's happening too. But I think part of the problem has been what we have in this like shift, right? This like all the balls are up in the air, and now like we're what is it called? Like juggling, trying to make them land. This is a very rare opportunity to have that. But for me, obviously, as a female founder, it's important that on the board's land, there is more equality between men and women when it comes to finance, both in terms of how it's run, how it's invested, and who manages it.
Interesting. So I just wanted to ask a question. So you gave the analogy of like you say you're juggling balls at the moment. What would you say is like the biggest kind of bottleneck for Otto Finance? Like what is kind of if there's like a blockage, what would you say it is?
I think any startup, as a founder of a startup, I feel like I am a crime scene investigator. Having to understand who solved the murder of the product market fit, right? Like intense product market fit. And that is a journey that never ends. Look at Klarna, like look at the journey they've been on and highs and lows. Product market fit is evolving because the market evolves and technology evolves and consumer evolves rapidly. So you're a crime scene investigator, then you're a puppeteer with one hand because you've got to make sure that you get the right order of events in terms of building the product, raising funding, onboarding clients, and making sure that happens in a way where you have enough growth to be able to grow, but then you can afford that growth and to service it. Because the last thing I want to do is onboard an unhappy client, right? So you need to get that all in the right order. And then, like, with your other hand, you're in showbiz. You if you want to create a category, you've got to have a vision. You've got to sell the dream. You've got to understand what the dream is. And that's really hard to understand what the dream is. So you're doing as a founder, you're doing all of these things at the same time, whilst maintaining energy and your own passion. So that, I mean, it's difficult, but I wouldn't say it's difficult. I'd say it's a challenge. It's challenging, but like I love it, and the prize is really big. Like if you can solve the advice gap, like that is like what an incredible thing to be working on. But like for Otto, we've got to get the things in the right order. We've got to be able to build. I need to be able to add value to my clients today. I need to be able to grow my client base because I need to be able to continue to capitalize the business, to be able to grow the business, to be able to grow our revenues, and then to put the right features to incrementally release, all whilst maintaining that future vision. But that's just a startup. I mean, that's just de rigueur, right? That everybody's on that journey. But I think it's an intellectually challenging problem to always try and solve.
Nice. From one business owner to another, again, I do like a story. So what's been like one of the biggest learning curves that you had since starting Otto?
I think having founder problem fit is really important, because as a startup, like there's tons of reasons you can do well and there's tons of reasons you can fail. But if you have like a reason why you are going to be more relentless than anybody else is really important. We were invited, so we're backed by Sequoia, and they invited us to their office in Menlo Park, which for me was like a pinch me moment, right? Like to be on Sand Hill Road, to be with all these incredible investors, to meet literally founders. And we met the founder of Instagram, and we were like, if you could start any business now, what would you start? He's like, oh, I'll do something in wealth management. There's a huge potential there, and there's like, it's an industry that, the client service is not good, and there's a lot to be able to do. And I'm like, wow, like what a moment to be in this room talking to Mike Krieger about this, for him to validate our idea and to want to be involved like that. I just think it's having that passion is super important.
Amazing. And where do you see Otto within like the next 6 to 12 months?
6 to 12 months, continuing as we are. We release features weekly. We're growing really, really fast. We're growing our team really fast as well. We want to be, what's interesting is you get to a point when you build a new company where you start to have brand recognition and trust. And that's really, really important to me as well. I want Otto to be known as this like source of authority on what wealth will become, with an incredible product that's going to get you there.
Amazing. That's nice. And what would you say is like the biggest barrier preventing faster AI adoption within your industry?
I think it's the fear of regulation, the fear that AI is going to perform worse than a human or make more mistakes, the fear that will devalue, like using AI will maybe devalue your service, or it's just not appropriate for the industry. I don't think that's fair. I think you just got to have the right product for the right talent to implement it really well, and just do fewer things but do them really, really, really well.
So why do you think there is stigma about AI? Do you think it's because people just don't know how to use it in their businesses, would you say?
I think people don't understand it, and they haven't seen enough proof points and use cases, which is why I love its adoption within legal and in medtech. I think that's really important because, like I said, they're very, very similar industries in some senses. And you absolutely would assume that like the software doctors use and lawyers use is bulletproof, right, and trustworthy.
Amazing. And I'll say, sort of last question, Maddie, if you were to speak to someone within your industry, or someone that wanted to start a business in any field, and they were kind of concerned about AI, how would you go about letting them know about AI and its benefits.
Don't be concerned about it. Adopt, love it. It's your friend. It does all the loads of work that you don't want to do. I don't think it's a concern. I think it's an opportunity. And we're at day one. So like understand the tools that you can use. Save your like time yourself. Start using it. Start understanding the limitations. Start using it in like a more connected, agentic way, and then grow your business from there. I mean, even internally, how we operate, we build our own like internal automated processes to help us with our deals pipeline, to help us with customer success, client onboarding. We automate what we can because doing it human, it isn't necessarily providing a better service at all. It's just I'd rather spend my time thinking about the product and talking with my clients.
I'm with you. The human element, as we said.
Exactly.
Nice. Well, Maddie, I just generally want to say thank you so much. It's been an absolute fantastic discussion. There's been a lot of gems that have been thrown in this conversation. I hope people have their notepads and pens and making notes on it. So yeah, we've had Maddie from Otto Finance. She's clearly making huge waves within the AI scene and wealth management. So thank you so much for sharing your insights.